Hey, 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 Firekeepers. It's so good to be on this afternoon. Today, I want to talk to you about David. This is such an awesome story for 5,000 reasons, but I'm just going to cover a few today. Today, as we step into fueling for the fire, I want to talk about showing up consistently, being anointed, favored, doing the stuff, the little stuff that you don't really feel like doing, that it's preparing you for the big stuff. It's preparing you for seen and unseen things to come. And what I love about David's story is that, first of all, uh, when the prophet comes to anoint him as king, his father leaves him in the field with the sheep and doesn't even call him and lines up all the other brothers and says, if one of my sons is going to be king, it's going to be one of these guys. It ain't going to be David. And so, as he walks to each son, he says, no, no. God tells him, no, no, no. And he says, do you have any other sons? And he says, well, there's David in the field. And he says, bring him. And so he brings David, and David comes, he leaves the sheep, he comes to the lineup, and sure enough, this is who is to be king. And it's not the obvious choice. And I love how God does this all throughout all of the stories we know of God. And even in today and in our own examples in life, God does this. He lifts up those who we don't think or they don't think, they should be stepping into the role that they end up stepping into. And so he's anointed as king. And then what does he do? He goes back to tending the sheep. He goes back to hours of practicing his harp, which eventually gets him connected to the king. He uh, practices, throwing stones and using a slingshot so that he can kill any predators that are coming for the sheep, which eventually serves him in taking down Goliath with no armor or anything like that. And eventually he becomes king. And it's all of the stuff that he did that gets him to king that is so beautiful. He practices the harp. And he doesn't practice the harp to get in good with the king. He just practices the harp. He practices throwing the stones, even though he's anointed to be king, even though he's told you're going to be king one day. He goes back and he does his job. He does his job the very best he can. And I love this so much. I love this so much. And maybe I love it so much because I can really relate to it in my own story. When I started in network marketing, I had certain goals. I was driven for certain reasons. And, that's not where I've ended up. But I worked really hard at the stuff that was hard, the showing up, the Facebook Lives, the prospecting, the follow-up, the networking, all of the stuff that was difficult for me. I showed up because God was telling me, say yes when you're asked to do a testimony or something that scares you. Say yes to networking. Say yes to hosting a presentation. Say yes to asking a leader to come to your town. Say yes to going to an event, even though you don't know anyone. Say yes. God just kept calling me to say yes and do the hard stuff, even though I didn't know where it was leading. And of course, I still don't know where it's leading, but where it has led me to this day, today, I never could have guessed. I never could have guessed that I wouldn't be building a network marketing business, because at the time that I was running and doing all the things, I really thought that that was my life. I lived and breathed network marketing and my company, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And God just has slowly moved me and picked me up and put me somewhere else, and totally in alignment, using all of the skills, just like David used the stone for Goliath and used the harp to connect with the king, and so many other things that he learned tending the sheep. And so I just love that we never quite know what God is doing in our lives. And so, we may think we're doing one thing for one reason and it ends up being for something else. But the point is more, how do we show up each day? How do we show up each day and just be the best that we can be? When the prophet Samuel came to Jesse, David's father, to anoint one of his sons as king, Jesse paraded all of his sons except for David in front of the prophet. Samuel, listening to God, rejected each one as future king and asked Jesse, "Do you have no other sons?" Jesse then called for David, the youngest, and Samuel anointed David, who would one day be king. Here's the thing about this part of the story. David goes back to tending the sheep. David was anointed to be king, and yet he kept showing up and doing the work in front of him. He did the work he knew. He was preparing, not stressing or posturing about his anointing. And so you may not be anointed yet. You may be anointed. You may be in the perfect place, but wherever you are, keep practicing throwing stones. Keep doing each day what you know to do. Show up your very best self and ask yourself, what can I do daily? How can I show up a little bit better each day? How can I show up? What's God calling me to do each day? And I'll just close this. God, your God, is with you every step you take. Joshua 1:9 from the Message. And so with that, I will close. Have an amazing day today. Be blessed. I cannot wait to fuel the fire with you. Day 16 on Monday. Tomorrow, we'll cover the I am statements, what God says about you. And then the next day, we will cover day 16. And cannot wait. So have an amazing day. Stay blessed. Be well. Talk to you soon.